You are now listening to Little Sparks, Big Hope, an EmberHope podcast. All right, good morning, girls. How's it going today?
Hi.
Hello, hello.
Yeah, I'd say it's going pretty good.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Are we hanging in there this morning?
I will admit I am a little bit tired, but
Yeah.
hanging in there.
Same,
Yes.
Same.
Same. Hey, I think that's just kind of the week in a nutshell, you know.
Oh, yeah.
So I feel that. Well, I know this podcast episode is going to be a little bit different than our previous episodes. And when we had talked about, who we might bring on for a guest today, we decided not to bring on one, which I think is really cool because, we've had these really timely months and events that have been going on to bring in experts, right? Like Warren and Bill to bring in and weigh in on these, child abuse prevention, foster care months, so on and so forth. But because we've brought in these guests, we really haven't had much of an opportunity among the three of us to kind of share about our whys, our foster care stories, just really establish ourselves as to why this space is so meaningful for us to be able to share. So I really want to take the opportunity this episode to dive in to some of these topics and to learn more about each other and allow our audience to learn more about us. And I think that's going to be a fun time.
Oh, absolutely. I think this way also our audience can understand that we're not just talking, we're also walking the walk as well.
Absolutely.
So,
yep. Add some credibility, makes us a little bit more believable.
Exactly.
Yeah, because all three of us here, we have such a unique tie to foster care, and obviously we'll dive into that in a minute. But I think being able to share that with the audience is going to be really impactful and hopefully just set us up, just to be seen as authorities on the topic coming into the next episodes that we'll have when we bring our guests on. So
yeah,
really excited about that. But of course we need to start out with our connecting question, our TBRI parallel practice principle, so I really like this one. If your younger self could listen to the podcast today, what would surprise them the most, or what would they think about it? Like, what thoughts would they have? Who wants to go first?
I can go first on this one.
Yeah.
And I hadn't spent a lot of time thinking about these questions just because I wanted to be more raw and natural as we do this. But I think knowing who I was even 5 years ago and then looking back even further about who I was when I was 10 or 12, I was a very, very shy person. I did not want to talk. I did not want to be the center of any kind of attention. I had a lot of opinions and a lot of feelings, but I was not going to open that up at all. So just being in this space where I'm looked at as someone whose opinions are valued, it's different. And I don't think my 10-year-old or even 15 or even 25-year-old version would have been like, yeah, no, that tracks. That sounds great. That sounds like you did everything correctly. I'd be like, what are we doing?
Mm-hmm.
You did what now? You're who?
You've blossomed.
I did. I have. So it's very interesting to kind of like look back and be like, wow, this really shy girl that would read her books under blankets in the cover of night and didn't want to talk to anybody is now co-hosting a podcast. So that was not on my bingo card.
I love it though.
Yeah.
And you're a natural.
Oh, thank you very much.
Yeah. Well, and it just shows, your growth too.
Yeah.
I mean, stepping outside your comfort zone, nobody grows in their comfort zone.
Absolutely.
Britt probably is so sick of me saying that. I say that all the time. But you've come on, you've done a wonderful job. I couldn't imagine having this podcast without either of you. This is not an undertaking any one person could do. And, so we're glad you're here. I'm glad.
It's definitely a team effort. I don't know if I could do this alone. So I'm really, really glad that
I definitely know I couldn't do
both
it alone
of you are here
without
with
you guys.
me. It definitely adds to the confidence. But yeah, this was definitely not where I expected to be. And I'm very happy to be here.
Yeah. And I would say you've also pulled me out of my shell a little bit too.
Oh, Stop that.
Well, it's the truth.
Stop it.
So for me, if my younger self could listen to the podcast, I think for me, part of it is like, okay, yeah, that's kind of expected because I was that person that made sure everyone was always included. Everyone always felt seen or heard. That was always my goal. But behind the scenes, people didn't know what I was truly going through. And so learning to be vulnerable and allowing myself also to do that, I think my younger self would be like, wow, you're actually doing this. Because whenever I was younger, I would put on a brave face. I was told you need to be strong for other people, which I was happy to do that. But ultimately, that also caused me to not really want to be vulnerable or tell people truly what I was going through. And so I was on the cheerleading team. I was a National Honor Society student. I was an A-team member. A lot of people didn't know behind the scenes what was going on with me. And I was really good about just making sure everyone felt included. And that was my main goal always. But then behind the scenes, I would get home and I would be tired, or my family would have stuff going on. And like I said in the first podcast, I had 2 family members complete suicide. And so dealing with mental health in my family, but then putting on that facade, if you would, of like, everything's good, everything's okay. I mean, I was a kid, but looking back now, I wish I would have been a little bit more vulnerable, because I think that is so needed nowadays. And if my younger self could see me now and say that I am being vulnerable, I think it'd be like, wow.
You're doing it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Vulnerability and courage go hand in hand.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you have to be putting yourself in a public space like this. You know, we open ourselves up to thoughts and ideas and even criticism sometimes. And that's okay.
Yeah.
You know, it's very tough. I'm somebody who I can be very sensitive, and especially when sharing personal stories or, you know, things like that, that I don't want anybody to judge anybody, or especially judge my family, or, you know,
Same.
anything like that. And it can be tough, but it's really important to talk about these things, because we never know who is listening, who needs to hear those things, who, you know, you're talking about, you know, your family's mental health and stuff like that. And how a lot of times it is swept underneath the rug, or it is, you know, put on a happy face and put on a mask, you know, go out in public and put on a mask and, you know, act a certain way, act fine.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm sure there are people listening who might be going through that now, or have gone through that in the past, and are like, oh, I can really relate to that person. So,
well, I think there's something to be said about the power in numbers, even for like positive things, of course, but there's power in numbers with the negative things
Absolutely.
too. And it's humbling to know that even though you might be going through something really ugly and really hard and really difficult, it's nice to know you're not alone even in that. And even if it's a stranger, if there's a listener going, wow, I really identify with Nikki, I'm not the only person going through something like this, and she's on the other side. So like there is something there.
Exactly. And it's about the connection. It's not about the perfection.
Yeah,
and that is at
absolutely.
the core of what we're trying to accomplish.
yeah. Oh, that's great.
Now, Autumn, I want to hear your side. What about you?
Absolutely.
So I think, you know, I think Britt was kind of spot on talking about the different versions of herself, or the different ages of herself. I think for little me, I've always had a deep interest in radio and broadcasting. You know, I've talked about this with you guys before, that I wanted to be a broadcast journalist. I wanted to be on TV. I wanted to be a reporter or an anchor, you know, something like that. But I had obstacles in my way, you know, self-confidence in my way that kept me from pursuing those things. But I've always, you know, watched TV, watched journalists growing up. I wanted to do what they did. I loved listening to the radio in the car, even as a kid. And I loved listening to talk shows. You know, I was like 6 years old listening to talk shows with my mom on the way to work in the morning, and I liked it. I didn't want to put music on. I wanted to listen to the talk shows. I know
That tracks.
What a weird kid.
No,
And
it's amazing.
I am so surprised.
I know.
Oh my goodness.
I know. And so, I always wanted to do that. And I even interned at a radio station in college. And I really enjoyed my internship there. I loved radio. I loved working in radio. I loved working with the DJs and the guests and things like that. It was so fun. I loved hearing their stories and to be able to sit down and have a conversation like this. And, even when I was in college, podcasts weren't really a thing then. And you got reduced to your 3-minute commercial, or whatever it was in a traditional radio setting. So I think just to be able to come on and do this podcast, I think little me would be super proud and like, oh, we're doing it. Just, it might not be, it might not be the Today Show that we're doing it, but we're doing it in a meaningful and tangible capacity. And I think that she would be super proud of me. And again, for putting myself out there, for stepping outside my comfort zone. All three of us have mentioned that. And just hoping, that the stories that I'm sharing, especially those stories that directly impacted little Autumn, are reaching people, and I'm assigning new meaning to those things that happened.
Absolutely. And you're crushing it. You're doing amazing.
Thanks. So it's a ton of fun to be on here. I have so much fun with you ladies, and I have so much fun editing as well, sitting behind the screen. And I think I even sent you a text. I zoomed in super far on like the audio lines, the wave lines. And I was like, check it out. This is you saying the word "the" or something like that. And it was just mind blowing.
No, it was so cool because I've never seen something like that before. So you're expanding my knowledge too.
Yeah. It's just me being a big old nerd about audio lines. So anyway, it's cool that I get to be able to just be myself, be a weirdo in this capacity.
Absolutely. And we will always love you for it.
Yep. Oh, thank you. I know one of the major questions that we've been asking around the agency lately in terms of just connecting and getting to know our different counterparts across the various departments is sharing about our why. And that's such a short question as far as the word goes, but it could have such a long, powerful answer.
Deep question. It's loaded.
It is. Yeah. It is. And everybody's is going to be different. Mm-hmm. And we had our agency all call last week, a couple weeks ago, and we got to listen to everybody's whys in some of the child-facing areas, which was really cool. We got to learn more about our counterparts that we hadn't got to, a layer we hadn't got to see before. And that really inspired me to come out and be like, well, we need to share our whys, the three of us. Because again, we just have these really powerful stories. And I would love to have somebody kick us off. And the mic will be yours for however long you need it to share about your why.
I would love to start because the reason why I'm in the field is because growing up as a kid, I have touched on this already before in previous podcasts, but I had 2 family members complete suicide. And first one, I was in 3rd grade. Second one, I was a sophomore in high school. And that changed my trajectory. It changed how my family coped. So unfortunately, like I have said, mental health was very strong in my family. Now, growing up as a kid, a lot of the other kids around me didn't really know what was going on. But also behind the scenes that other people don't know is that I knew who my father was, and he chose not to be in my life. And that on top of the suicides really affected me, and I always wanted to make other kids feel seen, feel heard, know that they were supported in some sort of capacity and that they were chosen. Because even if your family doesn't choose you per se, you can choose who you want as your family, your friends, your however you want to describe it. I think for me, that has been my big reason why I want to change the stigma for our youth, because I know how it was for me as a kid. I knew how I felt and how I didn't really feel comfortable opening up about certain things. And so if I could change that for another kid, if I could maybe get them to understand that you're not the only one that has been through this. Like, I understand, I can relate. Don't let that stop you. Open up, because the sooner you open up, the sooner you're willing to learn how to cope, or the sooner you're willing and able to communicate about the struggles, not just the good stuff. You get a bigger tribe behind you. Now, that also comes with sometimes people that aren't accepting. And that is a harsh reality that I also had to face. And I would say that has also kind of changed my trajectory. And that's also why I am so adamant about working in this field in general, is because there's going to be the good parts. There's going to be the bad parts. It's who sticks around. It's who is there for you until the end. And even if that person's only in there for a season of your life, they have made some sort of impact. And so that is my purpose of, I might not be a frontline worker anymore. I might not know truly what's changing, but I do see social media. I do see how our organization is genuinely trying to change the game. And that is where my passion continues to evolve. I wouldn't say my passion has changed or my why has changed. I would say it's evolved.
I think that's great. There's describing it that way. I know that you have a unique role here at EmberHope, working in the employment recruitment side of the house. Can you share anything about, how that has impacted your why or evolved your why as you've stated? Like, what, just seeing, you're one of the first people who sees applicants as they come in the door. You are fully aware to all the various positions and moving parts within the organization, maybe in such a unique way that some of us don't. So I'd love to hear more about how that has helped evolve your why.
Oh, absolutely. So for me, I was a frontline worker, and whenever I transitioned into the talent recruiter role, I knew the hard work that our staff would be doing. I know that it comes with compassion fatigue. I know it comes with secondhand trauma sometimes. And so whenever I'm speaking to these applicants, I am honest with them and say, do you feel like you have the heart? Do you feel like you have the bandwidth? Because once you get into this field, it's not like you can just up and leave that kid, because that's going to disrupt the kid. That's going to cause more issues. Like, do you genuinely feel like you have the capacity? And a lot of the times, the applicants that I'm speaking to, they have similar stories. They have been in some capacity through it themselves. And so they want to make that change, and they say, absolutely, I have been through this, and they'll open up about their stories. And I love hearing their stories, because it just shows that they truly have the compassion, that they truly want to make a change. And then other people, they're like, well, I've been in a 9-to-5 job. It's not really filling my cup. I feel like I'm just kind of going through the motions. They want to change that, because they want a job that can actually help them help other people. And I love it. I mean, sometimes I will outreach applicants before they even come to our EmberHope website. It's called Smart Sourcing on the Indeed platform. And sometimes I will just message them, say, hey, I kind of looked at your resume. It kind of looks like you have good experience. Is this maybe something you're interested in? It sparks that conversation. And then I learn more about that person, and I get to open up and say, this is what EmberHope is doing. This is kind of what we're changing. And they love knowing that we are catering to the youth. It's not what we feel is best. It's what we are observing, and we're ultimately changing it. Everyone loves Hope Estates, the facility that we are building on our Newton campus for intergenerational housing. I mean, that is a hot topic anytime I bring that up at career fairs, because people are like, wow, you are actually thinking about the youth as little as 30 days old, but then also those youth that are aging out of the system. A lot of people say, well, normally the things that I hear is like, once you turn 18, you're out the door. That's not the case. We are genuinely trying to change the game.
No, exactly right.
Yeah, and Hope Estates is so unique in that way, where it has not really been done yet.
Nope.
At least not locally.
Yeah.
I know we modeled ourselves off of a similar housing development on the East Coast.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I've read something similar. It was like a nursing home somewhere, or a retirement home that would have a very specific group of foster teens or aged out youth that had to meet very specific criteria. But it is just a really interesting shift to help the kids that are getting a little older.
Yeah, I think Hope Estates is going to be just monumental for not just for EmberHope, not just for the youth of Harvey, Sedgwick County, so on and so forth, but hopefully will be a game changer, a catalyst for child welfare across all of the United States. I hope that, you know, like I said, we modeled ourselves off of this. I think it was like Bridge Estates. I am so sorry, I cannot think of the exact name, but it was on the East Coast, and we took that model and we implemented it, and you know, hopefully are expanding on it, you know, and then hopefully somebody takes our idea and runs with it, expands on it, you know, and we just continue just to grow the
Sparking
concept.
change.
Exactly. I mean, it's just like the music industry, how they will use old classic songs and they'll revamp it. That's what we're doing essentially.
Exactly. Oh, I love it. Was there anything else that you wanted to share with us about just how you got involved with child welfare, or, you know, just what it means to now be involved, 2 years directly here at EmberHope? Anything else you want to share?
I think for me, I genuinely want our listeners to know that even if your birthed family doesn't choose you, you will be chosen by someone, whether it's your friend group, whether it's by the family that adopts you, whether it's by the case managers that you're working with. Please always know that you will be chosen, because I know, unfortunately, the reality of it is behind the scenes, a lot of people aren't chosen by who they want to be chosen from, but you can change it. You can change your perspective. Don't let that one or those few that aren't choosing you dictate your life, dictate how you feel about yourself, because ultimately you are special and you deserve to be chosen, and you deserve to be chosen by people who will also choose you, and vice versa.
That was beautiful. It reminds me of something that I tell my daughter, who was adopted out of foster care as well, but I tell her to not let her past define her, but to let it guide her.
Absolutely.
So she has a lot of really big feelings and big thoughts about where she came from, and she's got a lot of opinions on how she doesn't want her life to go. And so I'm just encouraging her it's okay to recognize that it happened, that this is kind of the hand that you were dealt with, but it doesn't have to define where you're going in the future. You can just let it be like a bowling bumpers, for lack of a better word, of just like, oh, we don't want to do that. Oh, we can't do that. And just let it move you forward.
Absolutely. It's letting her empower herself by her story.
Yeah.
Well, that brings us over to you, Britt.
Oh,
I mean,
good.
you just kind of
Kind
opened
of
it.
segued in there on all its own.
Look at you, so smart.
Do what I can. So I was thinking a little bit about this, and I grew up in a very small town in rural Nebraska with my parents and my brother. Our extended family lived in other states or other countries. And so my extended family essentially became the little old lady neighbor, became a grandmother figure. My dad's best friend became an uncle. My very, very good friends became siblings. Their parents became extended family. And I learned at a very, very young age that family sometimes is not what you're born into, it's what you make it.
Absolutely.
And I carried that with me through trying to become a parent. And I knew from also again, a very young age that biological children were not in the cards for me. That was just my choice. I've always wanted to adopt. And so when I had the opportunity to finally step into that, it was all in. I was all in for adopting somebody that needed me as much as I needed them. And then we got my daughter, who is 16 and sassy and brilliant and beautiful and exceptional. And that alone was a journey. I in my previous role at a car dealership, I became connected with Susan's kids. And that was another catalyst to just be like, oh, there is so much more out there. As you know, I'm a graphic designer by trade. I've been in this field for over a decade, but it really touched on this like little small part of me that was like, well, there's kids out there, there's families out there, there's such a bigger need than getting people to purchase cars. And so I connected with Susan's kids and have been kind of with that for a little while and found my feet at EmberHope, thankfully, and have just been able to grow from there and just urge people the importance of fostering, the importance of getting involved in agencies like this and the work that we do.
You hit the pedal to the metal, and we're so blessed to have you.
Ooh, yeah, it's been a ride.
Uh-huh.
Is there a moment, like when you came on board at EmberHope, was there anything that happened that you looked around and you said, yes, this is exactly where I'm supposed to be?
There was a moment, it wasn't even before I actually joined EmberHope. And I know Autumn's heard this story a couple times, but I don't know if Nikki has. We did the Susan's Kids Care Drive where we dropped everything off at the EmberHope Newton campus. It was my first time ever being on campus. It was my first time meeting all of these people. And we had 1,500 items to drop off. And like everybody is in tears. Nikayla is sobbing. Susan is sobbing. And I get back to the dealership, and the first thing I thought in my brain was, what do I need to do to work here? This is kismet. This is fate. This is where I'm supposed to be. Like, if Susan's Kids is a catalyst for getting me here, then it's a freaking amazing catalyst. I just wasn't even aware that this could be an opportunity. This could be a possibility. So it was really, really special to kind of have that clarity and have that thought of there is more than selling cars. There is more than just making menus for local restaurants. There's more than just doing logo work. I can combine all of that in such a bigger, more meaningful way.
Absolutely.
And one thing that Britt left out of that story is an important part of this story. And there was an event with Susan Peters, and it was called Possum Trot, and they were showing Possum Trot at one of the local Warren one of the local Warren theaters. And some EmberHope staff went out. I was supposed to go out, but I didn't have a babysitter for my daughter, and she was not even one. And I was like,
Marty Kramer, our fearless president, standing there, and I'm greeting all these wonderful, very important church members and frantically checking my phone. I'm like, where is Susan? I don't know where she is. She's like 45 minutes late.
So Susan,
I love you, Sue. If you hear this, I love you. You're fantastic.
Never change.
No. But Marty kind of like weasels up to me. He's like, have you ever thought of working in a nonprofit? And like, I think I said yes so fast I scared him.
Well, I was sitting at home with my daughter, who was in fact unhappy. And so it was a good thing we were not in a movie theater with people trying to enjoy a movie. And Marty texted me and he goes, guess who wants to work at EmberHope? And I said, who? And I said, Britt, with like 25 question marks on it. And I even showed Britt this. It is still in my phone. It's still in my phone. It's still in my work phone. And he said, yes, with I think 25 exclamation points. So, cause I knew when Marty hired me, I was like, hey, this is a major, this is a major undertaking that I cannot do by myself. And I said, I have to get a graphic designer. I can do it. It'll look on brand, but it won't look snazzy. And I said, I've got to get a graphic designer. And then so when we met Britt and I were working just a little bit back and forth on some of the Possum Trot posters and, things like that. And it just, like I said, just kind of all, it just snapped in place.
Yeah, it clicked. Yeah. And it was, talk about a ride, man.
It was a ride.
Rather than you going throughout the motions, you literally seized an opportunity, and this is where you were meant to be.
Yeah.
It worked out how it's supposed to.
I remember having very vivid dreams for my future in college of man, I would really love to work in nonprofit. I just think it's work that's worth doing. And at the time I had my sights set on the human rights campaign, and that's a very, very large undertaking. But for me to actually finally be able to work in nonprofit, it's just I can't even put it into words most days.
Oh, yeah. I totally agree with you.
And as as your supervisor, I'm just going to say that the last 2 years, when you came on board, you were obviously graphic design is your bread and butter, right? You are a talented artist, a talented graphic designer, a talented photographer. Those are all things that you knew coming in the door. But here we are, fast forward 2 years later, and the amount of things that you can do that are so beyond, just that original scope that you walked in the door with is so fun to see, so phenomenal to see. And it just is proof that we're just in the right spot, because I was you're planning events, you're keeping me on track because I need it.
It's the nature of the beast,
Nobody look and see how my files are organized on my computer, because they're not.
No, there's a lot of judgment from me.
There is a lot of judgment from her.
How do you find anything?
Whereas I'm the opposite.
The search bar.
Yeah, I'm I have this file and this file and this file, and I have this, and follows this organization.
I'm the same. We're just, it's different, but it's great.
We're out here with a chaotic brain gremlin who has no chills.
Yeah, I'm we have to put it in the folder.
And I'm what folder?
What are folders?
You mean the desktop? Everything goes on the desktop.
Yeah.
Oh God,
I know.
No, it makes me anxious.
I know. You're welcome. So, thank you so much for sharing, Britt, and thank you for just being here and being on this team and being the better half of the marketing department.
Please, you're both amazing. Give yourself some credit, Autumn.
I just feel lucky to be here.
No.
Honestly.
Well, the feeling's very mutual.
I am very blessed to have both of you guys in my life. And I am very grateful for EmberHope for bringing us together.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Same.
I mean, it might be their downfall of bringing us together, but
shh, don't tell them that.
Three chaos gremlins together.
Oh, if you could hear us before we started this, we were doing our vocal warm-ups, and it was a hoot.
It's a lot of early YouTube
impersonations and
animal noises.
Yeah,
it's good.
Yeah,
it's good.
Well, for me, my why, I've talked a little bit about it on the podcast. I've been a guest on the HC Talk podcast, which I'm just going to shout them out real quick. If you've not had a chance to go on and listen to Lance and his gang over at HC Talk, Harvey County Talk podcast, they are just a phenomenal group. He is a wonderful guy. They've had us on a couple of times. And I just want to thank them for their help in getting us started up and giving us some advice and stuff. So they've been really wonderful. But for me, my why, like I said, I've talked about it at length over on the HC Talk podcast. So I'll give the Spark Notes version here. But I was placed in the foster care system at 12 years old. I was removed from a motel actually, in Great Bend, the Baltsville Motel. It was not a great place to live. We lived there because we couldn't pay our rent. Our power was off. Before that, it was because it was the middle of winter. It was January when we got pulled. My brother had been walking. He was 14, maybe 15, and he had been walking back and forth with a gas can to the gas station in the middle of the night to fill up a gas can to run the generator so I wouldn't be cold. And we're talking 2, 3 a.m. He's walking across Great Bend with a gas can in his hand to fill it up $5 at a time because that's all he had, walking back so his sister wouldn't be cold at night. And I didn't know where my parents were most of the time. They were heavy drug users at the time. And my mom was a paraplegic. She was paralyzed from the waist down. She had had a stroke, tied to heavy drug use. left her paralyzed from the waist down, and her left side, her hand was like curled over in on itself, and she really couldn't use it. So she only had really use of her right hand. And like I said, she was wheelchair bound. My brother, like I said, he would help me get to school every day. Thankfully, school was pretty close walking distance. So we walked to school every day. We would go home. Sometimes there was food, sometimes there wasn't. My brother would usually try to have a friend. But my brother was super popular guy. Good looking guy, super tall, wonderful athlete. And I was a weirdo. I liked my books and I had a stutter and I didn't want to talk to anybody. So
was a weirdo?
He was a weirdo. Yeah.
Past tense?
Yeah. Well,
okay.
Hey, we're all nerds.
That's
right.
right. That's right. So thankfully my brother was as cool and popular and charming as he was. And so because of that, we usually had somewhere to go and eat, things like that. But anyway, so we got put in foster care at 12. And it was a very difficult thing. I remember going into the police car with my brother, and we were sitting in the back of this police car, and we're not arrested or anything. We're just being transported to the child welfare office for Barton County. And I remember looking at my brother, and I felt this overwhelming sense of relief, but I was also sad at the same time. It was very, very strange.
It's that duality. Two things can be true at the same time.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah. Two things can be true at once. I was relieved and sad, and we spent. I aged out of the foster care system, so I was in there till I was 18. Well, and obviously my brother did as well because he's older than me. So he aged out about 3 years. I was a freshman when he was a senior, so he aged out about 3 years before me. And so thankfully the Judge Marty Clark out of Barton County, again, just such a wonderful human, court ordered us to stay together. And so any foster home we went to, we were together, like I said, until he aged out. And I had some really amazing foster parents, and I had a one that wasn't so amazing. I had some really amazing case managers. In fact, I think I couldn't even name a bad case manager, honestly. I had really amazing case managers. I had amazing family support workers. I had a wonderful guardian ad litem. For those who don't know, a guardian ad litem is your court-appointed attorney when you're a minor in the foster care system. My guardian ad litem listened to me. He is just such a wonderful man still to this day. He still practices law. And so I saw these wonderful people advocating for me, and I got asked the question a lot, and they were like, Autumn, are you going to go into social work? And I was like, absolutely not. And I say that because I knew, it's not even people. And then people are like, oh, it's because it doesn't pay very much, or because there's stigma or whatever. And I'm like, no, it's not even that. It's because I know that I'm not healed enough to go and be a caseworker. I know that I'm so close to what those kids are experiencing, what those families are experiencing, that if I walked into that situation, I might not have the ability to remain unbiased. I might not have, or I might re-traumatize myself. And there might be things that I'm like, oh, I'm healed from that. And I walk into a hotel room where kids live, and I'm going to be like, nope, I can't do this one, and that would be doing a disservice to those children, to the agency, to the child welfare system in general. And so, but I knew I wanted to do something, right? And for me, I was like, well, what can I do? And so obviously I, have been working in marketing. I got a degree in mass communications and journalism. I went on to work on my master's at K-State for Master's of Arts of Teaching for elementary, because I want to do something with kids. And I'm like, what can I do? And then COVID happened, so I didn't end up teaching, which was kind of a blessing because I don't think I'd still be teaching. There was all these things that just kind of kept clicking into place. And then I saw the listing for EmberHope, and I was working from home with my daughter. She was maybe 6 months old when I saw the listing for EmberHope, and I had a fabulous job. I wrote all day. I wrote blogs and articles and website content for a private marketing firm out of Kansas City, and I got to work from home. My boss was the nicest guy in the world. He's like, yeah, keep your daughter home. Don't pay for daycare. You go to like one meeting a month. What do you need daycare for, And so it was such a blessing. I got to stay home with Elspeth. I got to work from home. My husband was also travel nursing. There was this amazing job, and my boss was phenomenal. But I saw this listing for EmberHope, and I just remember sending it to my husband, and it was the listing for marketing director. And I sent it to my husband and I said, what do you think about this? And he goes, I think you should apply for it. And I said, I don't know. I got it made in the shade. I'm like, why would I leave? I love it here. And he goes, well, something's obviously making you look. Is making you look, is making you drive towards this. And I said, okay. So I applied for it thinking, maybe I get an interview. Okay. I haven't interviewed for a hot minute because I didn't even interview for the job that I currently had. I just got a phone call because I was freelancing, and they're like, hey, we want to promote you, quit your current job and come freelance or stop freelancing and come work here full time. So I hadn't interviewed for a job in like 7 years when I came in to interview for EmberHope. And I was like, well, I'll just at least
stretch your legs and
yeah,
work out a new skill and
go
from there.
Yeah. So anyways, that's what I ended up doing, and ended up interviewing, and I met Marty Kramer, Mitch Drees, and they are just two of the most phenomenal guys you could ever know. But before I went into that interview, I got a Facebook message, and from a woman named Tamber, and Tamber Rouse is our director of donor relations. And she goes, hey, I saw your application come in. I didn't recognize your married name, but I saw your maiden name from your email address. And she's like, I remember you. You were on my caseload. And so Tamber was one of my independent living support workers when I was in the process of aging out of the foster care system. So anyway, long story short, went in there, interviewed, cried during the interview. So it's amazing that they even hired me because I just bawled like a baby and was like, I want to do this so bad because I'm so passionate. And
but they saw your heart.
Yeah.
And it was a full circle moment for you.
It was this really phenomenal feeling. But I made sure to tell them, I said, whatever history Tamber and I have, or, I know that I didn't quite check mark as many years of experience as that they were hoping for, whatever. And I just made sure to reiterate, if there is somebody more qualified than me, please pick them. Like, if you feel like somebody is more qualified, is going to do a better job, please pick them. Do not just pick me because of my relationship with Tamber or because I'm a former foster youth. This job is too important. This role is too impactful. You've got to get the right person in there. And if that's not me, that's okay. But put me down on one of your first people to interview for your blog, and it ended up being me. And,
Kismet. It was meant to be.
Yeah. So here we are. That was kind of long. Sorry. I said I'd do a watered down version and I did it.
It reminds me of what Marty told me during my interview too, because I didn't check mark some of I've never been a marketing director. I've never been in any kind of role that I am in right now. But he also told me, he's like, you cannot teach passion.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
All the other things can be learned. All those skills can be acquired. All the knowledge can be found, but you cannot teach passion.
No.
And you hit such a good point too earlier of like, are you ready to enter the field? Maybe at that time you weren't, but timing worked out to where you got to the point where you were ready to join social service field, work in more of a capacity where you felt like you could do it. And I think that's also something that our listeners truly maybe need to understand too, of like, you can get compassion fatigue, you can come from this background, but ultimately you have to have confidence in yourself to know that you're at the point where you can start to begin to make a change for other people and not let what happened to you define you.
No, you're exactly right. And I guess I didn't finish that thought. Shocker, I know. But I was going to say, but it was finding this capacity within child welfare that it's like, it's not social worker or nothing. You know what I'm saying? We have so many unique and diverse roles that still make an impact, not just marketing. I mean, obviously we have accountants, we have payroll, we have maintenance workers, we have
everything has to function together to make this work.
Yeah. And so that's I mean, even if you talk to our maintenance workers or our administrative assistants or anybody like that, who they don't have that traditional child facing or client facing role, they still have a deeply rooted meaning for being here in this work. And I think that's what's really incredible, is you don't have to be a licensed social worker to make a difference in the lives of these kids.
Absolutely. 100% agree with you.
Could not have said that better.
Oh. So anyway, I guess if you're listening and you are thinking, how can I work or find a good fit for me,
there are so many places to join this fight within EmberHope. And I know I met a driver several years ago when we were fostering, and he was a very kind, very, very kind man. And he's like, no, I love my job. He's like, I get to hang out with kids in a car. And he's like, if they want to talk, great. If not, that's okay too. But I'm here to listen if they want to talk. And if that's the most I can offer, then that's what I can do. Mm-hmm. And like, even just as simple as driving a kid from school to a doctor's appointment. And that's it. Mm-hmm. You're there for them.
Yeah. A listening ear. I know I loved all my drivers when I was in foster care. I would always been like, man, I hope Ed is coming, because Ed was just my favorite. God rest his soul. He passed away a few years ago, but, he was like Grandpa Ed, and he would sit and he would talk to you about anything, and he would tell you, about his time in the military service or, anything like that. And he was just so phenomenal just to sit and listen to. And I learned so much just from who I called Grandpa Ed. And he was just retired, and he wanted something to do. He liked to drive. He was retired. He liked to listen to music. That was a great, that was a great combo.
So then I kind of want to challenge us. I do want to ask you guys, do you think people become who they are mostly because of the pain, the opportunity, or the choices that they've been through, whether it's our staff, whether it's the youth? What do you think truly makes them want to maybe be in the field or get the help?
I think it depends on the person. Mm-hmm. Just talking to other people about their foster care experiences, or, even my brother and I, we had the same parents. We had very similar situations. You know what I'm saying? Like, but if you asked him that question, like what drove you to have this healthy family, like, because he's got a beautiful family, he's got a wife, 2 kids, he has a wonderful job, they own their own home, he's such a talented, carpenter. What drove you? And his answer might look vastly different from mine, and that's okay. Whatever drives us. Some people, for me, I wanted to. Initially, it was pain. I didn't want to experience that pain anymore. And I don't want my daughter or any future children to experience any pain like that. But also, on the other hand, opportunity. I want to give her the opportunity to have a better life than what I had. Mm-hmm. I want to give future me, setting myself up, like going to college and everything like that, making those connections was giving myself, my future self, the opportunity to step away from that pain. Mm-hmm. So I feel like maybe you can't necessarily have one without the other, or that it changes depending on the person or what stage you are in life.
Wholeheartedly agree with you on that one.
I think that's a really beautiful way to say that. And it makes me, and I know I mentioned this on the podcast before, but I know it makes me think of the quote, when you have more than you need, build a longer table, not a higher fence. Mm-hmm. And I was very fortunate to grow up with a very solid childhood. I didn't have any of the traumatic life experiences that Autumn absolutely did. And I take that and I go, how can I make sure that other people have those same opportunities? Mm-hmm. How can I make sure whatever child enters my life, that they get stability moving forward like they always should have? Mm-hmm. And it's in the case for my daughter, it's not for her biological family's lack of trying, because they absolutely tried. I've seen the paperwork. I saw the certificates. I saw it kind of laid out in this multi-sheet paper trail of how much they tried. And it's just that generational trauma cycle that couldn't break. And about a year ago, we were talking about her graduating high school, and she's still, at this point, it was still 3 years away, and it's 2 years away now. But I looked back at her and I said, honey, you're going to be the first one in your biological family to graduate high school. I said, that is an achievement. That is breaking this cycle. That is setting the standard for yourself and for everybody that's connected to you. And it's just, I look back and I'm like, we played a tiny bit in that, but God, she's just come so far. It's just, it's excellent.
Yeah. And, you know, that's her motivation, opportunity. You know, maybe that's what it is right now is opportunity. She wants the opportunity, because my brother technically was the first one to graduate high school in our biological family. And then I was the second, but I was the first one to graduate college, and definitely nobody went on for master's degrees, you know, and it's just such a phenomenal feeling to overcome. And if there were anybody in your daughter's ear, how sometimes there were in mine that was just like, you won't complete this because of your past, or you won't complete this because of your parents' decisions, or whatever that looked like. And to be able to overcome and say, I'm not my parents' choices. I'm not my family's choices, or I'm going to be more than what my generational trauma says I have to be. Is such a phenomenal feeling.
Let it guide you. Don't let it define you.
Exactly.
And she's letting that guidance empower her as she continues on.
So amazing stuff. Okay. So I know we've talked about our whys just in general, and we've got just a little bit of time left. And I want to talk about our why behind the mic. So I want to take just a few minutes to talk about, how does this show fill your cup, and what impact do you hope listeners feel? And has this podcast helped shape your why at all?
So like 3 questions in one.
Yeah. Well, you know.
Okay. We might have to remind me of some of the questions as we go on.
Yeah.
But I know when we were getting our foster license and going through all the adoption processes, I was so hungry for information, and I scoured books, I read blogs, I listened to podcasts, and I just wanted to know less about why people wanted to get into fostering and more about some of the realities of foster care, of adoption, what could possibly go wrong, what the different people do in this world. And there's not a whole lot out there as far as podcasts for truly educational purposes, unless I'm on this path because God told me to, or I felt a calling, or infertility issues. And I wanted so badly just to have information for educational purposes. And so I'm really, really so beyond happy to be able to like have this educational platform that I was looking for years ago.
I love that. And I agree. I think that's the whole purpose of us trying to do this podcast, is to bring more awareness. And by you sharing your story, you are bringing more awareness to others around us, whether they even recognize it in the moment or it's a few years down the line and they're like, wait, what was that podcast I listened to again? And maybe they go back to it and they refer to it and they're like, oh, okay, this makes sense.
Yeah.
Has your why changed at all since you started the podcast, or has it been, more refined since you started?
I think my why has just been reaffirmed over and over. We've overlapped with Bill and Warren for several years now, and we've met them on several occasions. But it is really, really beautiful to get to know them even more and more intimately and learn their whys as we go on. And I'm just really excited to learn more about our future guests and their impact, and whether that's internal or external agency members. it's a great place to be.
Yeah, absolutely.
Totally agree.
Nikki, what about you? How does this show kind of fill your cup? And has your why changed or transformed since starting?
I would say my why has definitely grown. It's still stayed consistent, but I would say it's just expanded a little bit. For me, being in this field, even though I don't come from a foster care side, I do come from understanding the mental health side of it. And for me, touching back on my why of like, my father chose not to be in my life. Ironically, he kept me a secret from his family. And so coming on this podcast, being vulnerable, speaking about my story, my hope is genuinely to help other kids that they might be in the foster care system. They might not feel chosen. They might need extra support, knowing that it's okay to be vulnerable. It's okay to ask for help. And I would say, I wish that more kids would have those conversations. I wish our listeners would maybe encourage it a little bit more and talk about their why rather than going through the motions. And so I think that's where my hope generally lies, and why my why continues to grow and continues to expand is because I see the change daily in speaking to the people at our organization and speaking to the applicants and hearing the stories of our youth. I know from my own personal story, it's evolved, and hearing everyone else's why, it has also expanded. And I think that also just makes me hopeful too, because I get to truly see how it's all changing.
No, I think that's beautiful. And, you know, this podcast gives us such a unique platform to not only talk about our own whys, but to bring in, you know, like we talked about, guests, internal, external, you know, hopefully have some external guests on here very soon. But just, you know, getting to hopefully break down some walls, break down some barriers, and then be vulnerable and open up and share and let others be vulnerable in turn.
Yes. And I would say also something that was communicated to me whenever I was a young adult was, you're being too emotional.
Mm.
I never want our youth or our listeners to think they are being too emotional. You are feeling your feelings. That's okay. Feel those feelings, learn from it, grow from it. Just don't let it define you. Don't let it make you feel stuck, because you're never stuck and you're never alone.
Absolutely. For me, I mean, this show has, first of all, filled my cup in two fronts. Like I mentioned, I get to live out my radio talk show host dreams. I get to be a nerd on Adobe, you know, Pro, and go into Premiere and edit this. And, you know, that's always fun for me. But it also, like I said, just gives us a platform to share and hopefully destigmatize some of these conversations, and opens up more conversations. You know, we're teaching people about even connecting questions. If that's what you walked away with, you know, you learned some more about connecting questions, and that's great. I think that the show has a little something for everybody. And, you know, just even the feedback that we've gotten from across the board, from Warren's, you know, accounts to, you know, Bill sharing that, you know, just heart-wrenching letter. The letter from last time. You know, so we are, you know, doing this really incredible thing, and we're bringing in so many voices, and we never know who we're reaching. And I think that's what's filling my cup and reaffirming my why at the same time. Well, as we close, just want to thank you ladies again for being so open and honest. I know it is tough to come on and share, and I'm really grateful that we can do that though. But I also want to make sure that we just shout out some folks real quick, and just talk about a few things upcoming within EmberHope. Of course, we need to give our hosts at City Life a shout out. Thank you, City Life Church, again for providing this podcast space for us. You know, we're really grateful to be down here in downtown Wichita. Beautiful spring, summer morning.
Yeah.
It's gorgeous out today. And, but they're such gracious hosts. We're so glad to be here. If you're church shopping, you're looking for a home church, these folks are just wonderful and welcoming. So
they're doing some renovations to the building. I noticed a handyman on the first floor pulling nails out and fixing things. So they're definitely trying to spruce it up and make it even more welcoming.
Yeah. So that's really, really exciting stuff. So make sure you check out City Life if you have not yet. I know our back to school drive is going to be kicking off soon. I know school just ended. I know, guys.
I know, but we try to collect the school supplies early so we have time to properly distribute to our foster families who need them for their kiddos. Yeah,
because we want to have all of the supplies collected and in our hands by the end of July, so we can put backpacks together, put school supply lists together, and then get those backpacks and everything in the hands of all the kiddos at the first part of August, and then school usually starts mid-August. So summer goes by fast. So if you see us talking about school supplies, please know that when you have 3, 4, 5,000 kids to shop for, it takes time. It takes time.
That's
also
a lot of pencils.
Yeah. Oh yeah. And I want to put a plug in. If anybody wants to volunteer and get involved, they can help us organize it once we obtain all these items.
Yeah.
And that information can be found at EmberHope.org. There's a really lovely volunteer button, and you'll find all that information there.
Yeah. And you can get in touch with Virginia. Virginia Lewis, her information is on the volunteer page. You reach out to her, and she will keep you on top of any volunteer opportunity coming up, back to school supplies, anything like that. Virginia will get you all set up. So thank you for the wonderful reminder. We need all the volunteers.
Yes, many hands make light work.
Exactly.
And then is there anything that you wanted to share about hiring?
I would say if you're interested in getting involved, we have plenty of positions. Please go to our careers webpage. And then if you want to talk maybe in depth, you can always email talentmanagement@emberhope.org, and you'll get in contact with myself or my talent acquisition manager or my counterpart, Miss Kim Miller. We would love to have a conversation with you if you want to get a little bit more in depth before you apply. But please know that if you don't find your right fit right off the bat, there's opportunities for you to find your fit. So I would say that that's my biggest takeaway is please know that you can get involved. There might be certain positions that have certain requirements, but that's something we can easily talk through. And all of our job postings have those requirements listed on them. So definitely look at those first, because that's going to give you a good guideline.
Yeah, they're very clear what the position needs, if there's a specific degree requirement, a specific licensure requirement. So those are all very cut and dry on there. So
very thorough.
Yeah. And then last but certainly not least, I want to encourage everybody, make sure you're following us on social media if you are not yet. Our Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, all of those. We put really good content on there. We share some really meaningful impact stories, just behind the scenes pictures, events pictures. If there's a specific job opening currently, that we're very specifically hiring for, we post about that on there as well. So there is just so much going on our social media that you can stay up to date in real time on these things going on. So. And then of course, if you have any thoughts, if you have questions, if you have stories, if you're a foster parent, former foster kid, adopted youth, crossover youth, anything like that you have something that you want to share with us or discuss, on air, please send us an email, littlesparks@emberhope.org. Again, we will put this information in the podcast description wherever you're listening. So be sure to check that out. We'd love to hear directly from everyone.
Or even ideas for future episodes.
Yeah. Yes.
Sorry, my voice. But yeah, if there's something that you want to learn more about or have questions about, please shoot us an email. We would love to research that.
Yeah.
And we would love to hear your takeaway from this episode. Please tell us, if you're figuring yourself out, how this helped you, if it has helped you. We just want to generally try and change the stigma. So please get involved. We understand that this is kind of a longer podcast, but the purpose of having a longer podcast is to truly dive into the meat and the potatoes, not just give surface level conversation, because by having a shorter one, it might be easier to listen and it might keep your attention. But if we keep the longer one, we're diving in deeper. We're giving you more information. So if you have taken the time to fully listen to this podcast, we want you to know we appreciate you so much.
Yeah, absolutely. And then our final thought today, I just want to thank you guys, or, you ladies here in the room. And I want to thank our listeners for just taking the time to really peel back all the layers that we've discussed today. Thank you for exploring your why. Thank you for, staying connected and doing what you do. And if you are listening at home or in your car or at your desk, wherever you're engaging with this podcast, I just encourage you, spend some time thinking about your why. And whatever you're passionate about, whatever is calling to your heart, spend some time this week. Think about your why. Think about how you can encourage somebody else's why. And please share this podcast with somebody who still might be figuring it all out.
Yes.
Or email us your why. We would love to hear your why.
Mm-hmm.
And I highly encourage writing it down so that way you can see how your why evolves throughout time as well.
Oh, that's a great point. Oh, thank you guys so much.
Thank you.
Thanks.
I'm Autumn Herder.
I'm Nikki Hayes.
I'm Britt English.
Will you be the one?